This video was a request by Daily18 on Patreon. I hate anime. Said no one ever. It may not be that huge a part of my channel, if not to say no part at all, but I mean, anime is cool. I love me some Digito and Death Dragon and Vigata HK. I watched this when I was 10. Whereas most Western animation is still in this weird transitionary period of just sort of sometimes being acceptable to watch by people above the age of 6 or whatever this pinnacle of manliness is trying to tell me with a sick marshmallow Fortnite skin. Anime is now more integral to pop culture than it's ever been. It's no longer this niche thing only the weebiest of lowlifes would supposedly watch. There are some shows that would still be classified as such, but as Mr. Beast so eloquently put it, people that don't watch anime are fucking weird. It's no secret that Japanese animation has influenced Western shows in ways sometimes more plain to see and also more indirectly, with story arcs seen in series like Steven Universe. Obviously, this is not exclusively thanks to Japanese animated series, since not every anime has a fixed beginning and end either, but especially when you consider the animation itself, it becomes clear where many cartoons currently airing drew inspiration from. You also got shows like Voltron, Avatar, or Teen Titans that very directly try to emulate the anime aesthetic, sparking quite heated discussions about what even constitutes as an anime, which would surely make for a nice hour-long video, the effort of which I'm not willing to put myself through for the time being. But luckily, back in 2006, there was a show that spares me the effort of determining whether it truly is an anime or not, as it proudly claims to be the first anime to be produced entirely in the United States.
No, you ain't!
Kappa Mikey was a show meant to poke fun at pretty much any anime trope known to man, from the over-the-top hairdos, of the ridiculous action sequences, to the sometimes completely redundant slice-of-life plotlines that really don't have any business being a main premise for an episode, but you keep watching regardless. Alongside a very interesting cast, to say the least, and a tendency to not take anything it is saying seriously whatsoever, it was a truly unique show for its time, and a milestone in using cheap flash animation to your advantage with like 5 different art styles jumbled together. And somehow, it still ended up on TV, with a total of 2 seasons, both of which are hilarious and surprisingly consistent in quality if you're into the show's bizarre sense of humor, which would go on to inspire many other ironic anime series like Nia Neko Sugar Girls and Neo Yokyo. I hope it's ironic. Not to mention that shows like Pop Team Epic prove just how popular poking fun at these tropes can be. It's Newgrounds video game parodies on a TV budget, and I really hope we get more of it. Normally I would have done a regular review of Kappa Mikey to see how well it achieves its goal of being somewhat of a parody of anime tropes and still tying in some solid plotlines, but not only do I think it's sort of unfair to judge a show that so clearly wasn't trying to be taken seriously as such, but someone else also did exactly that way better than I ever could 2 years ago. So what I decided to do instead was focus on what I think is the most standout episode of the series, for not only being the only double-length special, but also being on a topic I have an inexplicable passion for, which is karaoke. I'm not joking. There was a time back in 2016 where all I ever did after school was go to the same old karaoke bar and watch Shane Dawson videos before he became a conspiracy nut. Remember when he made giant Reese's cups? Those were the days. And karaoke episodes in anime are always fun. There's not too many of them in cartoons, maybe like that Simpsons episode or the Gravity Falls Season 2 premiere, but most of the time they're only used in one scene to parody some pop song they couldn't get the license for, or want to fill time, which is kind of a shame. This one uses a different approach. We start off the episode like any other, with the show inside the show called Lilymoo, as it centers around the titular character Mikey coming to Japan as the new star of this Power Ranger-style live-action superhero series. The show Lilymoo itself is usually only kept to both the beginning and end of each Kappa Mikey episode, which makes sense considering it's only ever funny when you take into account the stark contrast between the characters as they get portrayed in the series and the slice-of-life sections of the show we are actually watching. If I wanted to watch a poorly made Power Rangers ripoff, I'd go watch VR Troopers instead. The theme of the episode gets established early on, as Mikey's shrill voice deafens the rest of the cast, and as they are forced to take a break, he drags in what appears to be a pinball machine but turns out is a karaoke machine, which their boss Ozu has found in a cave years ago. Obviously, Mikey has never tried out one of these before, therefore doesn't believe in the concept and keeps on insulting the karaoke genie inside, who is neither blue nor played by Will Smith, so I understand why Mikey wasn't too intimidated by him. However, as the next day rolls around, it turns out that he did inflict upon the crew a curse, which forces them to break into song whatever the circumstance. It's like those cartoon episodes where a character is forced to dance for the entire thing, except it's more like a Bollywood film in that they have to sing instead, which is a simple yet effective concept. The guy was even evil enough to shut up the adorable dancing transition sushi, one of the most iconic parts of the series. So iconic in fact that they got their own obscure spin-off series meant to accompany this one in commercial breaks, which only went on for a few episodes and is pretty much impossible to find online. Considering its quality though, that might be for the best, but the first song that is then introduced to us is already pretty much karaoke in a nutshell. Every day The flashing colors in the background are a bit irritating at first, but I got used to them pretty quickly. You can probably tell that the animation budget on the show itself isn't insanely high, but at least in this episode they used light effects and little dance sequences to their advantage effectively. The latter of which often being references to other music videos or miscellaneous stuff related to the industry. And so immediately after waking up, Mikey breaks into a Bruce Springsteen style song called I Feel Super. Still blissfully unaware of the curse set upon him, though Ozu is starting to suspect something is up when they start singing about how great their job is. You know, the one they usually hate with a passion. And so he decides that he's just gotta get to the bottom of this. Songs on the show were always sort of kept to a minimum, aside from the dancing sushi transitions I mentioned and the epic theme song done by the Beat Crusaders, a Japanese rock band best known for making the opening to the anime Back, who unfortunately dismantled in 2010, but did grace us with quite a few Weezer-like nerd rock tracks I quite enjoy. I don't know how much involvement they had with this episode in particular, but considering how many different genres were at play here, I wouldn't be surprised if they were responsible for at least some of them. Though maybe not Go Nuts' hit song Turkey Ham Salami. He's the lovable, loyal dummy of the show that just sort of strolls along looking for food and fun behind the scenes, but ironically portrays his evil counterpart of the same name on Lily Moo. He's a fun character, but doesn't really get fleshed out too much in the series, which is another reason why I think the show could really use a reboot with story arcs or at least some form of continuity, but I don't think it's popular enough to warrant one. They bring back my dad the Rockstar before Kappa Mikey makes a return. We move on to Ozu's number, which, though he may try a bit too hard to channel Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls, is definitely a decent job done by his voice actor here. He's getting so worked up over being the boss of the show, channeling pitches his voice shouldn't normally be able to produce, probably permanently damaging it, and it's very much worth it, thank you. They transition into what is sure to be a reference to something, but I just can't put my finger on it. It's just too subtle and... Oh Jesus. How long does this keep going? Even Ozu has to admit that forcing the crew to keep going whilst being under a spell, forcing them to sing even while giving important interviews or at a funeral service will likely end up hurting their brand, and decides to shut down the studio, which brings us to yet another song in the form of a Video Killed the Radio Star parody. This one's okay, but maybe just a smidge too melodramatic, like their show got shut down, yeah, but that is something they should get used to on Nickelodeon. Their Pikachu parody mascot Ryder Guano gets left behind, delivering a parody of Purple Rain or something right after, which feels far more personal and has some pretty nifty light effects. With him emerging from and going back into the shadows, they got these page-ripping effects symbolizing how he's peeling apart the layers of his personality and finally breaking free, not holding back anymore, and the song itself isn't too bad either. He also sings Oh Yeah Yeah at one point. The show is truly ahead of its time, I hate it. Sailor Moon ripoff and resident bitch Lily seems to be the only one that gets a kick out of finally starting off her solo career or just basking in the fame the show graced her with, while Mitsuki, who acts as a Hinata type character to Mikey, confesses her feelings to him through song, even though he has already left the scene himself. If there's any song in here I could actually see being used in an anime, it's probably this one. If not for the truckloads of cherry blossoms falling from the sky, then the hype early 2000s AMV transitions and her hair flowing in the wind in slow motion. It also gives her an opportunity to tell Mikey about the secret of the bouncing ball, which shows her which words to sing at any given time, something that would really be helpful at the interviews I mentioned earlier, or yeah, you know what, even the funeral services. So they all chase after the karaoke guide, subsequently causing Mikey to finally realize the true importance of singing karaoke. There is a life lesson in there, but I'll just shut up and let you enjoy the nightcore.
Hear it in the air and on the street. It's a key, but to the beat.
It is sort of unfortunate that this last number is just a reprise of the first one, but I don't really mind listening to that one again either, so it checks out. And it also convinces the genie to finally lift the curse and let Lily Moo be free of song. And honestly, if you're planning to watch any episode of the series to get a taste of what the show is like, this one's one of the best to start out with. You get a feeling for what each of the characters is like through their songs, which themselves are pretty great. The pacing gives a sense of urgency and tension, some of the references were really clever, and the jokes on par with the rest of the series. If the pilot episode serves as a genuine introduction to the series, which it technically is, then I'd say this is the most refined one there is, even at 40 minutes and with a bit of padding due to that. The show did another episode revolving around a musical, namely The Wizard of Oz later on, but surprisingly that one actually didn't feature any songs, which I think is sort of unfortunate and makes me wish this one had just been the series finale. The beats were all there, and they even made an album of the songs in this episode, which shows that they themselves were confident in this one's quality, rightfully so. It's not a perfect episode, but for how underrated Kappa Mikey itself is, and barely anyone even remembering it, I think it's only fair to exemplify the few episodes that stand out, since I don't really see myself coming back to the series in video form anytime soon. If you want to check out some other episodes, I'd recommend Season 1's Easy Come Easy Go Nerd, Big Trouble in Little Tokyo, and Like Ozu Like Sun, as well as Season 2's Free Squiddy, Mikey's Place, and Tin Pot. And that's totally not just because it's another minigolf episode, leave me alone.